Welcome to Babylon Berlin Babble. My name's Bubba, and today we're going to be breaking down 4 episodes in this most recent Season 3. That's right, Season 3, Episodes 4, 5, 6, and 7. We're going to cover all the spoilers up for the first 7 episodes of Season 3, and obviously everything from Season 1 and 2. If you haven't watched that far yet of Babylon Berlin, please pause the podcast, go watch them, come back, join us on this journey into Roaring 20s, the end of the Roaring 20s. We can see it coming, we can see it ending, of the Weimar Republic in Germany. Joining me are 2 wonderful panelists. First up, he's willing to do anything to sneak files out of the catalog, even though he can take them out for free. It's Catfish. Catfish, what are you doing?
I mean, for some it's a vocation. For me, a vocation.
Very nice. And joining us every week is somebody who got his tongue pierced on the altar, but he didn't talk to anybody from the dead. It's Double M. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling quite alive, thank you.
Not everybody on this show is feeling alive. We are 7 episodes. We're well past the halfway point of Season 3, and we're going to talk about these 4 episodes. Listeners, we want to know what you think. We will babble on Babylon Berlin here on the podcast, but we always say, who cares what we think? We want to know what you think. Reach out, talk to us, leave comments, leave us written reviews, subscribe and like the podcast. On Twitter and Instagram, you can find us at PHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P, then the letters HQ for headquarters, at PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/PHQ. YouTube, leave those comments. We love them so much. And tell us what you thought of the movie studio season. I'm going to come to you guys for your rankings of these 4 episodes, and I'm going to start with you first, Double M. What is your ranking out of 10 for these 4 episodes?
Well, I'm going to give it 8.8 out of 10 of what I like to call double Vs.
Double Vs?
Yeah, vaulting Veras. It's so cool to see Carol Colt do her own little run and slide trick on the desk all in one shot. That was great.
So 8.8, Double M. That's really high. You must love these 4 episodes.
Well, it's much improved from my rating for the first 3 episodes of this season. I got more invested in the new characters. I'm still feeling pretty terrible for most of the characters that we know because they're all in trouble, or we know that they're going to be in trouble someday. And a big thing for me might also be double T's.
Double T's?
Well, that's the Tickwer Tinkerings. Did a great job with the music that Klimek provided, but Tickwer mixed it up quite a bit in these episodes.
All right, 8.8. Catfish, you were pretty high on the first 3 episodes of Season 3. Now that we're 4 episodes further along, what is your ranking out of 10 for these 4 episodes?
Well, first I couldn't decide what scale to use. I was going to use the old-fashioned, as we all know, the WW scale. The double W scale.
W scale.
Yeah. The Weimar whistlers for Rath there, who can now whistle with his mouth shut.
Catfish, how terrible.
I decided I had to put it, it was more appropriate to put it on the triple P scale.
Triple P?
Yeah, pensive performing plumps. As we all know, Tristan Roth's real name, Herbert Plump. He was a spirit that hovered around these 4 episodes, but we didn't have to deal with him too much. But I'm going to give it 9 triple Ps.
Whoa, way to outdo Double M there, Catfish. 9 out of 10, that's really high. How did it get so high for you?
I love the way it's all coming together. Honestly, I would rank it higher, but it's all coming together. So many amazing things. My only real problem is, as if I wasn't irritated enough by the whole Rath's brother storyline, Otto, he shows up in yet another weird-ass sideline storyline. How many weird-ass jobs does he have? He's like a cult leader and a therapist. What's next for him?
Listen, Heil Hustle is his catchphrase. You got to get out there and get those marks, y'all. Okay, well, guys, I really liked these 4 episodes a lot, but I'm going to have the lowest rating. I'm only going to give it 8, what I like to call triple C's out of 10.
Oh, triple C's?
Triple C's?
That's cast cost cuttings. When a lot of the cast member dies, you cut down on the cast and save some cash. We seemingly have lost Vera. You never say never, but we've seemed to lost some more of the cast to the cloaked killer on the movie set. What's funny is I'm talking about that scene, and I thought that was a real fun version of a slasher film. But for me, the highlight of these episodes were these incredibly tense scenes. Crime scene photographer Graf going to get those photos, Miss Elisabeth doing her machinations against the Nazis, quote unquote, Otto and Fritz, and Greta coming face to face with liar Fritz. And these scenes were so tense. I just loved them. Only 8 out of 10 because they're little things I didn't like, but yeah, really strong, really good point of the series where we are so far. We mentioned a second ago about feedback, and listeners, we love your feedback, and I want to read this feedback we got on YouTube just so we're all on the same page, and it's a great comment from Erica. Erica wrote, "Did you really just blame a little girl for being preyed upon by grown men? That's her fault? Wow. We got a she was asking for it here guy here, I guess."
Man, Bubba, why'd you have to go and do that?
Good point, Catfish. So I wrote immediately back to Erica, and we said, listen, it may not be obvious in these recordings, but the three of us were very close friends, and we are almost, in a way, we're playing Cards Against Humanity with ourselves, where we're playing these games, kind of trying to come up with things that are specifically obnoxious and wrong, so that we'll make the other people laugh at how obnoxious and wrong and silly and stupid we are. So certainly, we don't want anybody to take any of these jokes as our serious beliefs, and hopefully when you hear our giggling about it, that will be a hint that we're not doing it. We just want to make clear with everybody that some of these ridiculous things we say are meant to be ridiculous, and please don't take them as serious. And Erica was kind enough to write back, oh, so it's a bit like Colbert? Yeah, it is a bit like the old Colbert show where you put on an act saying ridiculous, dumb things as an attempt to get a laugh. So thank you for understanding that, Erica.
Absolutely. Erica, I know that I'm going to apologize for Bubba, but this is all of a piece. This is my function on this show, my embrace of Walter, an obviously horrible person. It's all part of a singular shtick. And also, it gets to a certain point where we're all sort of have the kind of the same feelings about the show. Mm-hmm. So rather than me echoing my two partners, I decide to go the opposite and posit something which is grotesque and completely wrong for entertainment purposes.
So listeners, we're inviting you to play this Cards Against Humanity, this red flags type games we play on the show, and be silly with us and know that we're as terrible as the characters on this show are. We're going to try to lighten the mood a bit so that we can kind of laugh and remember that despite the real history that's going to be horrific, these are fake, imaginary, made-up stories. And get ready, we're going to play one of our classic, we've never played it before games, which might lead us to some terrible, ridiculous jokes.
I love this game. Now you can just say, whenever I say something wrong, you can just say, edit for Erica. Double E, edit for Erica.
Oh, excellent. Okay, double E, Erica, you got your own code. That's awesome. So we mention all the time that the seasons tend to have through lines through them. We always talk about the train car plot line. That really was a through line of season 1 and season 2. And because this season's through line, one of them seems to be the movie set, we decided to play a brand new game called Siskel and Ebert at the Movies. So if you are hopefully too young to remember this, but in America, two classic film critics, Siskel and Ebert, had a TV show where they'd always go thumbs up if they loved a film or thumbs down if they didn't. And if they would disagree, they'd get into hilariously fun fights. So we're going to play that game here in a Babylon Berlin Season 3 spin. So what we're going to do is we're going to imagine scenes from Babylon Berlin as if they were their own movies, as if that scene was like the big scene in a movie that came out. And my panelists, Catfish and Double M, are going to rate the movie. Thumbs up, ooh, great film, can't wait to see, it was so wonderful, or thumbs down, ugh, why do we watch that? Save your money, the popcorn was better. Thumbs up, thumbs down, Siskel and Ebert at the movies. Here we go with Babylon Berlin Season 3. In a world where there's sex and nudity all around, Dr. Anno Schmidt and Tristan wrote, star in the sexy thriller Third Eyes Wide Shut, when two detectives and their plucky heroine sneak into a sexy scene at a mansion. Dr. Schmidt and Tristan Roth are trying to connect with the dead by having people do double T's.
Double T?
Double T's?
Touching tongues.
Oh, I heard that somewhere.
Third Eyes Wide Shut. Rated R. In a theater near you. Wow, that sounds pretty exciting. Catfish, you've seen that film. What do you think? Thumbs up for that film or thumbs down?
Well, I'm going to go Daumen hoch. That is thumbs up for this film. I love it. The only thing I said to Ms. Catfish as we were watching this scene was this scene needs more nudity. Other than that, it was perfect. The crazy dancing around. The other detective who's like, this is not my favorite thing to do, but I will do it a little bit. I love it. It was freaky and cool.
Double M, what did you think of Third Eyes Wide Shut, the scene there at Tristan Roth's mansion?
Cat Siskel, you're crazy, man. This movie was horrible. A big thumbs down.
Oh, no.
I'm telling you, Tristan Roth's career has gone in the can ever since he married Tom Cruise.
Hey,
it's just unbelievable. Bad movie after bad movie. No way.
Oh, man, that's tough. Critics, are you going to listen to the critics and watch it? Did you enjoy it? Boy, that's tough. Our second film up, In a World Where There's a Killer Coming For You, Detective Rath, Charlotte, try to stop a killer from killing a movie starlet Vera. The cloaked killer is slashing his way, editing the film with his blade. Also starring Walter Weintraub as the Fall Guy. Scream 1929. Double M, what did you think of this movie, this scene, the end of episode 7 there on the movie set? What did you think of it? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
One of the most refreshing horror stories that we've seen in a long time. I absolutely loved this movie, and I especially love the attention to detail to the current viewer. They went all out. They embraced people who are on the outside with things like facial piercings. It was beautiful.
Catfish, what did you think of this film?
Daumen runter for this film. Thumbs down.
Oh, no.
Okay, what is the most important part of a horror film? Is to not know who it is. They blew the reveal on this. When they took the mask off, we were like, yeah, no duh. We were told this like 10 minutes ago that it was this dude. Spoiler alert. Hello.
Interesting. We keep getting split thumbs here. Will anything get 2 big thumbs up or 2 big thumbs down? Well, we got a bunch more films. Let's see how we're doing. In a world where evidence is hidden. Bum, bum, ba-na, bum, bum, ba-na. You need one super spy to sneak into an enemy base to get the information that can keep the world safe. It's crime scene photographer Graf sneaking into the evidence locker to find out the hidden Greta Overbook murder files about our boy Benda in a sexy, thrilling, important new film. Assume the Mission Impossible. Catfish, what did you think of this scene, of this moment of Graf sneaking in? I found it very tense. What is your rating for the film?
I'm going to give it thumbs up except for the title. I thought it should have been called Assume the Position.
Oh, shameful. So you liked it a lot? Were you tense? Were you fearful of what was going to happen to Graf? And admittedly, something terrible did happen to Graf.
I mean, it all depends on your point of view. Yes. I thought it was exciting because he was bumbling. Also, he was very, very loud. And at the end, when it turned out that the dude remembered him from before and referred to him as a dolly, ooh, that was hurtful.
Still a thumbs up. Double M, what is your thoughts on crime scene photographer Graf's Mission Impossible?
Well, I have to agree this time and actually give a thumbs up myself. I thought that it was a fascinating examination of how you can use your imagination from that point of view. You might call this a penetrating film. I'm not certain.
Double E, Erica, that was for you.
I feel like I might be a bad influence. He can't control himself over there.
Prestigious dramas don't come more important than our next film. On death row, Greta has one chance to save herself when she's brought face to face with a man who coerced her to crime. It's Greta and Richard, a.k.a. Fritz, Pechtmann in the courtroom drama Witless. Double M, what are your thoughts? What did you think about this scene of Greta having to face Fritz again and then denying she knew him? What'd you think?
Oh, it was so emotional for me. And I think the most striking thing about this, as I give it a huge thumbs up, was that no one's going to get their day's payback.
Oh, my Lord. Okay, Catfish, what did you think? Greta saw Fritz. Fritz saw Greta. Rath has put it together. He's put the people there. And yet, evil Scarface Wendt was one step ahead. What is your rating for Witless?
I'm going to give it an A+ when it comes to the eventual ending, which is Greta in 2 parts.
How terrible. Is that thumbs up? Have we got another film with 2 thumbs up here?
Thumbs up, Damen Hawk.
After that hard drama, it's time for a film for the whole family. It's Miss Elisabeth and reporter Katelbach. They're being attacked by evil Nazis who pretend to go by the name of Fritz and Otto, coming to get them because Katelbach's on the list. But they escape into a magical realm just for them. It's the family film The Chronicles of Bavaria, the reporter, the Nazis, and the wardrobe. Catfish, what do you think of this family film?
Now, when you say the hidden space in the wardrobe, basically what you're talking about is an entire room. They just put the wardrobe in front of a door for the room. Okay? So this might be the Chronicles of the Witless investigators who don't realize there's a whole room there. I'm going to give this thumbs down. Damen runter.
Double M.
But, Catfish, you're missing the whole point. Mm-hmm. In the Chronicles of Narnia, there was a whole world inside the wardrobe. I mean, they scaled it down a little bit to make it a small budget film here.
Yeah, but it was a magical world. It wasn't an actual real room that existed that was just right behind the wardrobe.
All right, hold on. Reviewers, movie critics, I want you both to tell me, which was a bigger magical realm? Catfish, you're up first.
Sorry, I'm going to have to go with the straight answer, and that is Narnia. And also, Narnia was much cleaner.
Double M, do you agree?
No, I mean, evidently Elizabeth Binky has, an infinite amount of space in that flat.
Too much space.
It's not the only place she...
Feel the belief. Erica, you are missing so many terrible comments. All right, next up, it's a brand new character. It's MaLu Seegers, Mary Louise Seegers, General Seegers' daughter, who's a communist. She's seated at the fancy dinner next to the dashing, charming Scarface Wendt. Opposites attract like no other. It's a period drama to take your loved one to on Valentine's Day. MaLu Seegers and Scarface Wendt, starring in Pride and Extreme Prejudice. Double M, what do you think of this? Opposite attracts, romantic comedy, the two of them there at dinner.
Big thumbs up. I just recently watched Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, and it doesn't come even close to exhibiting the same kind of strong woman that MaLu is.
Okay, thumbs up, Catfish. Brand new character, I think in her very first episode, being seated next to the evil Nazi. What do you think of Pride and Extreme Prejudice?
Absolutely. She was so new when she was introduced. I thought, is this Tony wearing glasses to sneak into the... And I was like, no, this is a whole new person. Right now, we're getting a new person. I am going to agree with Double M. Thumbs up for this. I was disturbed, frankly, by the flirtiness of their banter back and forth. I hate this guy so much. I hate what he stands for. But it really was like meet cute, 10 things I hate about you, that you're a Nazi. Yeah, thumbs up. Disturbingly so, thumbs up.
It is weird. I mean, MaLu, her father loves her, obviously, but she is a communist. She's the antithesis of their opinions and seated next to evil Scarface Wendt. Crazy that they seemingly had a bit of flirty banter. This next one's a popular hit from the 80s, I believe, that you can just hear that awesome soundtrack going. It's when person comes and falls in love with a prostitute. It's not Julia Roberts and Richard Gere this time. No. It's Horst, a.k.a. Otto Kessler, and Erna the prostitute, starring in the wonderful romantic comedy Not So Pretty Woman. Catfish, what'd you think about this one?
I'm going to give this one a big Damen Runter. Thumbs down. This does not have the interaction between them does not have the same crackle that it does between MaLu Seegers and Scarface Wendt. It's missing that special joie de vivre that would indicate that she's anything other than a plot point personified.
And one that's certainly not very engaged with him, but who's to say? Double M, what did you think of this film?
Well, while I would disagree with my counterpart that Erna is not engaged, she's obviously clearly very engaged with alcohol. But I do think that he's right in giving this a thumbs down. Erna just doesn't really come to life for me.
She does seem barely awake, but Otto paid her pimp and he brought her to his place, that incredible mansion that seems to be a basement apartment that would be perfect for the movie Parasite. That's one you may want to skip in theaters, folks. Otto and Erna. We got one more romantic comedy here in this Siskel Ebert at the movies debate, and it's Nyssen, strawberry face, birthmark on his face, Nyssen, and Helga Rath. She's the poor widow who's just found out she's pregnant. He's the millionaire willing to put her up in the nicest hotel in Berlin. But is this a man trying to buy a woman? It's Nyssen and Helga Rath starring in Indecent's Proposal. Double M, what did you think of this bit of plot that is happening in season 3? Nyssen and Helga Rath.
Demi Moore did such a much better job with this kind of role than Helga did. Helga is really, she's on her own path, and it felt like that they were just trying to recopulate some kind of hit for themselves, and it just didn't work for me.
So that's a big thumbs down. Catfish, how do you feel about Nyssen and Helga Rath starring in Indecent's Proposal?
I'm going to give this a big Damen Hock. Thumbs up for this.
Wow,
okay,
what?
Here's the difference in the Decent Proposal. She was being treated like property, and the discussion was between the two men. Helga has taken this into her own hands, and she has delivered herself into the lap of luxury. I say, you go, girl.
Good points.
Okay, we got 2 more films to review here at the movies. This next one is a fun story that the kids will love. It's young Tony, who seemingly has no school or anything to do while her sister Charlotte Ritter is off solving crimes. It's Tony staring at the birds that she can't afford in the kid drama Fly Away Home. Guys, what do you think about this one?
Well, Bubba, I have to say, I'm surprised you went with that movie, because when Tony woke up and she turned over and her sister was there and another woman was there.
Vera.
This reminded me of movies that I've seen. Well, I mean, parts of movies I've seen online. So I'm going to give a thumbs up just for the movies it's reminded me of. Parts of movies I've seen online. A woman and her sister and another woman.
Oh, boy. Double M, what is your rating?
Well, just to bring it back home here and understand the real point of this film, I think what we need to look at is examples like Free Willy and how the struggle is real for Tony in order to be able to free those 2 birds. I can't talk about it.
That moved you pretty strong.
Emotional.
Listeners, we want to know what you think about these films. Once again, write us on our social media areas at PHQ.
Now,
on
Bubba,
Twitter and
there's
Instagram.
one more that you didn't cover.
Our final film here at the movies. Catfish, this is one that's, I know, near and dear to your heart. Do you want to introduce it for us?
Yes. A brilliant but moody and lost young man interacts with a quirky, joke-telling therapist and learns how to embrace his inner self, find love, and break free from an overbearing mother in Good Nyssen Hunting.
Oh, you know he's going to be wearing those little German short shorts in this film. Old Nyssen Oh, boy.
So, Bubba, what do you say? Do you thumbs up or thumbs down to good Nyssen hunting?
Well, I can only go by the trailers. I haven't seen it all yet, but every time he gets smacked, I know what spot on the face people should be aiming for. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing it. Thumbs up from me. Double M, what about you?
I think that is a wonderful film. I'm giving it a thumbs up. Nobody does math better than Nyssen.
Yeah, heartwarming coming of age story.
How old do you think Nyssen is coming
at the age of 40? Coming to the age of 40.
That's like the first time Dad took me to Walt Disney World. I was 45.
Listeners, once again, who cares what we think? What do you think of these plot developments? What do you think of these scenes? What do you think of these actors? Give us the thumbs up or thumbs down at PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, facebook.com/PHQ. We're going to play one more game, then we're going to talk about all the story beats we haven't hit so far. We're going to cover the incredible music in these 4 episodes, then we're going to end with our classic awards we give out. Next up, we've got a really fun, challenging game that we're going to tweet out this photo on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook so you guys can play along at home. Double M, why don't you take us through this?
Sure. Much like many of the games that have been out on social media lately, because we've all been cooped up in our homes and looking for things to do, this game is a pay to save them kind of game, or pay to get your best team kind of game. It's called Save Them from the Nazis. You have $15 to spend.
Ooh.
And there are 5 rows of characters from Babylon, Berlin. Each row is worth a certain monetary value. Now, you have to spend all $15, and you must choose 5 people. No more, no less. Exactly 5 people, and you must spend all of your $15. No pennies left behind, no pennies in debt. There is one wild card that we have in here, and I'll get to that when we get to our $4 level. But at the $5 level, there are 5 characters that you can choose from. There is Rest in Peace Yannick.
No need to be saved.
There, yeah. We're saving him from the Nazis. Everybody lives in this particular game.
Got it.
We have Gereon, Rath. We have, of course, our favorite Lottie. We have Catfish's most favorite, Walter. Mine too.
Yes.
And we have Greta as well. Those are all on the $5 level. Now, on the $4 level, this is where our wild card comes into play. We have Chief of Political Police, who is still alive in our game, Binda. And then here's our wild card, the Tweedledum Detectives. Both of them. You get two for just $4. But remember that they do count as 2 people. So that's 2 of your 5 people used up, but for just 1 purchase of $4.
They're still too expensive at 2 for $4.
Finishing out the $4 row, we have Graf, Elisabeth, and Katelbach. That's Binky and Katelbach in the $4 row. The $3 row, Dr. Anno Schmidt, Moritz, Tony, of course the Armenian Edgar, and Rath's sister-in-love, Helga. Not so in love these days.
Well, it's catching on, Catfish. Sister-in-love is sweeping the country.
It is.
At the $2 level, we have Helga's current love interest, Nyssen. We have still alive. Well, he was alive anyway. They just tried to kill him several times, Katelbach. We have, I think, still alive, even though everybody else on this podcast doesn't think still alive, Svetlana. We have evil scar-faced Wendt. And we have General Seegers' daughter, MaLu. Finally, rounding out the $1 level, we have Vera, Call Me Fritz, Seegers, Walter, and Gnat. That's Walter from the 3rd season. And, of course, the Buddha, Gnat. So, the whole idea is to get 5 people, exactly 5 people for $15. Catfish, let me go to you. Who are you going to save with your $15?
All right. This was not as difficult as I thought it was going to be, because some of these I realized were actually Nazis, so I didn't really need to save them from themselves. So Walter, Fritz, Moritz, Nazi, NIT, Nazi in training. Now, what I found out in this 4 episodes that was interesting is that people who I thought were Nazis aren't quite Nazis. that Wendt and his group, they're not Nazis. They're trying to use the Nazis to further their ends. So that was a fascinating piece of information I didn't realize until now.
Yeah, how do you think that's going to go for them? General Seegers and Wendt, they
Not well. They're trying to ride the tiger, and it's not going to go well for them. Nonetheless, because they are trying to use the Nazis, I'm also going to cut them out. They deserve to be killed by the Nazis. So even though I love Walter, he's a Nazi. I'm not going to save him from the Nazis. So obviously, I'm going to save Lotta. She's 5 points.
Okay.
I'm going to save Katelbach because he is trying to fight the good fight, despite the fact that Elisabeth is shutting him down hard.
Oh, that's the good fight he's trying.
Well, that's one of the good fights. Okay. I'm going to take Tony. Erica, I want you to know I'm taking Tony. I'm saving Tony from the Nazis. Obviously, I have to take my friend Strawberry Face Nyssen. And then I had $1 left and one name left. I couldn't decide between Vera and Ganat, the Buddha, but then I realized, according to my other rules, it's too late to save Vera, so Buddha Ganat it is. That's 5 people, $15. I dare you to come up with a better list.
That's a good list. Bubba, have you made your selections? Have you drafted your team?
Nobody told me there'd be math. And you're saying I can't just keep some of this money? I have to spend it all?
You must use all of the money. So if you have like $3 left over and 3 characters, then you have to pick all from the $1 row.
He wants to take Rath and Lottie, and then he's going to be left taking 3 people from the $1 row. He's going to be stuck with.
If you people listen to my whole thing about the workaround.
He's going to be stuck with Fritz or Seegers for sure.
Okay, listen. I wonder if you guys will be able to figure out this brilliant strategy that I'm going to be rolling with.
Okay, let me see. I'm going to add this up as you go.
I am going to save Lotta, Charlotte Ritter, certainly for $5.
Yep.
I'm also going to save Greta for another $5.
No, Greta, she's
$10.
Season 3's villain.
3 characters left.
Season 3's villain. He's going to do it. He's going to take Tweedledee and Tweedledum. He's going to do it.
Listen.
Okay, go next.
Then I'm taking from the $2 range, MaLu.
Nice.
How much money do I have?
$3. You have
$3 left for 2 characters.
Then I'm going to take Svetlana and Vera.
All right, there you go.
Now, do you notice what I took? I took all the lovely ladies.
You did, but you didn't take Helga, and instead you took Greta, who killed a child.
You know what? I didn't take Miss Elisabeth either. You're leaving her out.
I know, but she killed Katelbach's manhood. I can't believe you didn't take. Oh, you did take MaLu.
I took MaLu. Girls with glasses. This is ridiculously lonely Bubba's picks, but I'm taking Lotta, Greta, MaLu, Svetlana, and R.I.P. Vera.
You know, Bubba, I have to say, I don't think we're going to get to it. So I did make a note here I wanted to bring up in the podcast. It reminded of you. Some guy is hitting on Lottie in the office, and she's like, "No, you're unbeatable." And then he's like, "Well," and then she's like, "No, I'm out of here." And all he cares, he doesn't care that she dissed him. All he cares is that she said he was unbeatable and bad.
Catfish, that's the character from season 1, Rudy. Yannicke's friend.
That's the girl stealer.
Who you love so much.
Oh, well, no, that's who. See, how many times is he going to have to remind me of you before I remember him?
Dare edit. That may not be a double E Erica edit, but it's definitely an edit.
All right, so
Double
back
M.
to you, Double M. This is your game. You're obviously going to have the correct answer.
Let's hear it.
There are no correct answers. There's only the answer that matters to you, Catfish. However, mine is better than everybody else's.
Okay.
So here's what I'm going to do. Not unlike Bubba, I'm doing this completely for myself. I'm going to start at the $4 level, and I am taking the Tweedle detectives. I'm taking Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
No wonder.
They're nice guys. They're nice guys.
You put them in here specifically just to save your bacon. Now I understand.
Yeah,
all right.
So I need those 2 guys to make me look good, right? So that I can take Lottie and Greta on the $5 level, which gets me up to $14.
Somebody else is
I now have
Greta.
4 characters. And with $1 left, I choose Vera. I get Lottie, Greta, and Vera, and 2 guys that make me look real good.
Why is everybody so fascinated with Greta? Like she's a damn victim. She is not a victim. Over and over again, she does the complete wrong thing.
Horrible. You don't think sacrificing herself for her young child's life is the right thing? I think in that case
she did one small right thing amidst so many wrong things.
Well, I was a bit like you, Catfish. Characters that I love, like Yannicke and Benda, who have passed on, I really didn't feel like I could take, even though I did take Vera. And
yes, you made a Vera exception. How selfless.
Listeners, once again, we're going to post this, respond to this. We want to know who you would save. We didn't save, nobody wanted to save Graf. Graf's incredibly likable. Nobody wanted to save the Armenian, who's got his own kind of fun charm.
Look, there's only so much money and so many people that can be saved. I didn't save MaLu, who I wanted to save. I was going to save Walter. He deserves to be saved.
I feel pretty heartless because I didn't make an effort to save any of the children. Although I do feel like Tony can probably handle it. At the height that she's gotten to, she can probably handle the Nazis all on her own.
I wonder if you could do a twist on this game where you say, there are people that I do want to give to the Nazis, and then you get the money back from them.
And you get some money back. There you go.
Yeah. So in other words, I'm going to hand over Greta to the Nazis. That gives me an extra $5.
Wait, who else would you hand over to the Nazis?
Oh, Otto for sure. Let's get him the hell out of here.
Dr. Schmidt. Oh,
I'm
anybody
tired
else?
of shenanigans. I can't wait till he shows up next running the goddamn Elks Association.
You don't get a Catfish. Otto is Hitler, just in disguise.
Oh, okay. That would be the only thing that would make sense. I'd be like, oh, now I get it.
How about this? Could we have spent money on Fritz to get him away from the Nazis and turn him into a good guy? Not worth it. All right, listeners, let's dive in, and we're just going to briefly touch on these story points that we're covering here in Season 3. And we really haven't talked much about this looming, we know from history and from the flash forward at the beginning of the season, the stock market crash is coming. And our window into this is another murder cop there on the murder squad, the cop with a mustache, Bohm. And he's looking into his quotes and he's insinuating to his family, hey guys, I may have some money coming. His son we've seen in a wheelchair, and he's talking about, hey, maybe we could get that ground floor apartment. Wouldn't that be great? Uh-oh, that's not good. Nyssen has started making his pitch. He's pitched to General Seegers' group about, hey, what we'll do is we'll tell people we'll buy this stock for them at this price, which we don't have yet. We'll buy it at a set time. And once the stock market crashes, we'll get it cheap. The people who would guarantee to buy it from us will have to pay the original high price. Nobody there in the room seems to accept it. Scarface Wendt hangs out the longest, but everybody else is like, Nyssen, this is a ridiculous idea. Anybody want to talk about what's happening with this looming disaster as if 1920s Germany didn't have enough looming disasters?
I understand how no one, it's part of human nature. First of all, if things are going great, no one wants to say, very few people are going to be like, okay, let's look at things realistically. Let's look at what's underpinning all this. They just want to keep going along for the ride. That's what happened here when we had our crash. As long as people are making money, no one cares if it's real or not. So it's hard to convince people. I feel like maybe he didn't, I don't know, maybe he could have gone into more detail. I felt like there was a little bit more research he did that we saw that he wasn't doing it, that so many, he did sort of mention that, but he had a guy going and questioning all kinds of people. But yeah, it's a hard sell for sure.
You don't think selling it by using an allegory of an earthquake hitting a casino roulette table is the way to sell?
No, it's not. He didn't. It wasn't the best. It wasn't. And plus, also, let's not forget, on one hand, he's disgraced. On the other hand, he's a little manic when he's describing all this.
Ugh. Well, he's definitely manic before the meeting with the way he's going through all those papers. I would say that the allegory that he used, Catfish, is perfect. A perfect impersonation of his personality, which is, it's pretty manic when an earthquake happens. It is pretty depressive for the casino when all that money goes away.
Right, but the example he's using is something that happens you would think it would happen once in a million years. In other words, it's not a very likely scenario. So you need to come up with a scenario that's a little bit more likely.
In order to sell it to him.
Yeah. Because that's not what this situation is. This situation isn't that there's a chance earthquake. There's real underpinning as to what's going on here. Is that the market has gone way out of whack. So it doesn't require an earthquake. It just requires a small turn. If someone would say to me, "Hey, I want you to put your money into this because I want you to imagine that what's going to happen is an earthquake's going to happen at the very moment we put we spin the roulette table," I would say, "Yeah, sure."
Well,
I've been to Vegas with Catfish. He has done that.
Something about the existentiality of the, if that's even a word, of the idea of the earthquake, though, and not to get into semantics here, but if you think about what happened in 2006-8 for us, whenever it was, that happened as a result of years, from the Clinton years all the way through some of the Bush years, except for the little bit of downturn during the 9/11. But that climb was happening for years. So it does make it much more unlikely than likely in that possibility.
Well, we know where this story is headed. He's manic, he's crazy, I still think he's creepy, but Nyssen, the story is telling us, he is the one who sees this coming. It's real funny. Catfish, do you feel any better about how the flash forward seems to have spoiled where this story's going?
No, because I don't know where the season. Without that, I don't know where the season's going to end, and now I do. In a way, this is obviously you knew ahead of time that we would be stopping at 7 here. It's interesting because we do have 3 episodes left, and we seem to have resolved the main mystery of the season. So I understand that why we'd want to have something else, but. I still wouldn't want to know what's happening at the end.
Well, let's get to that next storyline, the movie set killer storyline. One of the big through lines in this storyline is, once again, something that the audience knows by now, is that Charlotte Lotte, she is the best friggin' detective there is. We begin episode 4, and she's the one who has seen the murder, who explains everything that happened when that actress Tilly was locked in the dressing room and got killed. She's the one who saw the killer come down and knows it's in this courtyard. And so she's doing everything. Later on, after Vera, the latest lead actress in the film, is dancing with her and doing everything, it's Charlotte who realizes, wait a minute, Vera just said in this testimony, sworn testimony she gave to Baum, that she didn't know Walter Weintraub. But wait a minute, I saw them talking to each other at the movie set. She then corners Vera and says, what's going on? Vera says, hey, way back in episode 1 of season 3, I was in the car with Walter Weintraub, but he disappeared for 30 to 45 minutes, exactly when Betty Winter, the first victim, was being killed. And so, once again, it's Charlotte coming up with these things. Yes, we have the fun escape to Eyes Wide Shut, and we have various other twists in the story. But once again, Charlotte's the real one doing it. Now, there are little mini threads through it. The Armenian, he is worried. He's invested his own money in this. He goes to his men and other mob bosses and says, listen, you can't do this. You can't take me down this way. His wife seems to want to save the film by figuring out, now that we've had 3 women appear as the lead actress, how we could possibly save it. And it ends up in, once again, I like to call it Scream 1929, with the cloaked figure attacking. And I thought it was a great, creepy scene of Rath getting stabbed through the cheek. Oh, What do you guys think about this murder storyline? Let's go to you first, Double M.
Well, I feel like total agreement with you about the whole Rath thing. That was like the most unlikely of things that I would have predicted would have happened, and it was perfectly creepy. So that was really cool. Once again, facial piercings, folks, not just from the 1990s.
Right.
The whole idea of this deal, again, now you look back at the first episode, you say to Weintraub, what was in the bag? It must have been the hooded figure thing, right? And that's why he was so protective of it when he came to the home. There's all kinds of things that point back towards Walter Weintraub being the killer. And I found all of this, especially Charlotte's role in all of it, to be quite compelling as well. She, as usual, is doing a fantastic job. One thing that I think the first time I watched it, I was kind of like, and Catfish, I don't know if you're saying, okay, it's okay or not, but I was kind of like, wait a minute, we've wrapped this up already? There's still 5 episodes left. This is a 12-episode season. what are they going to do now? It can't all be about the stock market, can it?
Good questions. Catfish, what did you find fun in the movie set storyline?
Sorry for me kind of focusing on the negative, but not only were we told that it was Weintraub before he was unmasked, but also, in these kind of things, it's the job to put out red herrings. Do you think it was the reverse red herring that the Armenian has a long discussion with Weintraub in the car about Judas? I mean, He's basically, you watch that and you go, oh shit, the Armenian must think it's Weintraub, because otherwise it's a really weird way to go about it. Now, at the very last minute, I was hopeful, as before things got super physical between Weintraub and everyone else. Yeah. I thought, what would be really cool? I said to Ms. Catfish, I said, I think it's the Armenian's wife. And then
Esther, yeah.
And then as the brutality of the person in the mask became more and more clear, she was like, are you sure? I don't think she can do that kind of thing. And
well, tell Miss Catfish, when you smoke opium, you get super strength.
I guess, yeah. On the last episode, I asked you, I said, I can't figure out who would want to do this. Maybe we'll find out more. I don't know if you feel like you can answer remembering what you thought after you watched episode 7, but it's still not clear to me why he wanted to do that. Why Weintraub wanted to put the Armenian sort of on the skids.
I think that the most telling scene about Walter in terms of his relationship with the Armenian is the fact that he's doing the numbers and he's taking some off the top. He's pulling a Walter, not a Walter, but a Walter. He's taking money off the top from the bad guys.
But that's just, that's just the cost of doing business when you're a crook, as far as I know. Skimming is a well understood and established part of the business.
Yeah, that's how so many people end up in canals too.
Well, true, but also he is he's half in with the Armenian on this. So, he's half in plus the 200 he skimmed off the top and whatever he skims off each one. You know what I mean? I understand. There's a difference between taking some off the top and then taking half of a big hit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Winning $50 at roulette and then blowing $2,000 at the blackjack table, right?
It all depends.
Listen, there was an earthquake.
When the earthquake is coming. Yes, exactly.
Can I say that, Catfish, you asked a great question, and I have to be honest, listeners, I don't mention this much, but because I love season 1 and season 2 so much, I bought this book. I bought the second book in this Detective Rath series from the German author, and the problem was, while the setup is the same, that there's this killer on the loose striking people at this film, there are just enough differences that it was hard to keep them apart. Tristan wrote in the novel really has a big part. Like, it's almost like superficially the same story, but so different that I was completely confused.
Right. Bubba, I think you're just jealous. I think you're jealous that this writer stole your screenplay idea.
Oh yeah, listeners, if you can find Cutthroat, don't watch it.
Now, aren't they going to? Didn't I read somewhere, or maybe you said that the next storyline, season 4, is going to follow one of the books more closely?
Right. That's what the showrunners have said, is that it'll be season 4 of the TV show, but it'll be the third book because the first book was season 1 and 2. And they said that'll follow it more closely. I have not read that third book. But for me, really, the main problem with the book was I don't think it's a great translation into English, and I found it a hard read. So that's my book reads review right there.
Oh, that's too bad, because there's a whole series. Are they all translated by the same person?
I would be fearful they are. I don't honestly know, but I would be fearful they were. All right, guys, let's get to what I have to be honest. In my first watch, because this isn't in the novel, and because I couldn't believe the story kept going and going and going, on my first watch, the story I loved the most was, sure enough, this nebulous story about Greta in prison, the hunt for the Nazis, quote-unquote Fritz and Otto, and then the far right's machination. So Greta has recounted her testimony. She's getting beat up in prison by the communist doctor saying, why did you point the finger at us? We didn't do this. We didn't tell you to kill Benda. Rath is our hero. And so he does some terrible things with Helga and other parts of the story. But here he's going to find out who did this to Benda. And he teams up with Graf for the scene we already talked about. There's a real fun scene. We don't sometimes talk about these fun throwaway scenes where Graf and Rath start drinking and dancing together. That's real fun.
Very sexist. Very sexist, Bubba.
What do you mean?
We've got the ladies, they're dancing and they're smooching, they're getting close. Why couldn't we have that with the men? Poor Rath, I mean, he's just a mess. He might as well just grab whatever love he can.
But Catfish, the fact that he wasn't there when Charlotte was trying to ring him up on the phone. I mean, if you want to, if you're writing in fanfic or whatever, you can say that they were together.
Who knows what they did when they got home from dancing together, Rath and Graf. Go at it, boys.
What I'm saying is, you have to use your imagination with the boys, and you don't have to with the girls.
A show me, don't tell me kind of thing. I understand that.
It's a double standard because people don't want to see that.
Agreed.
But I want to say I'm firmly against this double standard. I'm all for it. Let's see the guys whooping it up along with the women.
Hey.
Double E.
Double E, good work.
Double E, I'm all for it.
Sorry, transitioning back to these evil bastards who we knew in the first couple of seasons as Otto and Fritz. Fritz's real name is Richard Pechtmann, and Otto's real name is Horst Kessler. We follow them for a bit. They are seemingly this real-life character, Stennis, who led the brown shirts in the Nazi party in the Berlin region. He sends them to smash up Katelbach's paper, to beat up Katelbach, and to do who knows what. Then they go to Miss Elisabeth's house, and I hate these guys so much. And I was so thrilled when Rath grabbed Fritz, Richard Pechtmann, and brought him to the station. But because we'd already seen the scene of evil Scarface Wendt pretty much telling Greta, you want this kid to live, keep your trap shut. It just devastated me to see it go that way. There could be some hope for Greta in that we see this communist lawyer, our second new character, this character Lytton. He had been referred to in the first couple episodes because he was apparently suing the police department for the May Day riots. But now we meet him, and he seems to take on Greta's case. So there's some hope there. But oh boy, yeah, just true terrible stuff. What do you guys feel about this storyline?
This storyline is sad, mostly because we haven't seen Greta get killed yet.
Oh, terrible.
Double E.
No, I have no sympathy. I honestly, I know it's mean and I shouldn't be this way, but I just have no sympathy. I have no sympathy for Greta, mostly because she's going to cause the rise of Nazi Germany. It's all Greta's fault.
That's a weird way of looking at it, Catfish, but I almost see your point. If she could have pointed the finger on these jerks, that would have turned the public against these people who murdered Benda and his daughter.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Now it's going to be against the communists.
I am such a softie. That scene where she was looking at Fritz, and then Fritz had that look in his eye, and even Fritz could realize that something was going on with Greta at that point. She's so much under pressure and trying to save her child. That score in that part right there, and just the acting of that actress, I hit the floor. I could not take it. It was the first time I watched it. The second time I watched it, I wasn't any more like Catfish, but I was less emotional. But that really, really got me when Greta had to face up to Richard and Rath, his frustration boiling over everything.
He figured it out. I mean, Graf almost risked his life to get this information, and they had it, and it just all falls apart. Oh,
it was awful. It was just heartbreaking.
Okay, we kind of have a couple other storylines running through. The one I always call Lotta, Charlotte Ritter's family drama. Her older sister, Ilse, her eyes getting worse and worse and worse. Charlotte has gotten a letter. She's gotten a bundle of letters, that her mom wrote to this other mysterious person, E. And Charlotte may not be sisters or be a half-sister to Ilse and Tony. It seems like Charlotte's father isn't their father. We also see Tony, and we follow Tony a lot. The first time I watched this, watching Tony, it almost, and this is terrible to say out loud, it reminded me of Greta in season 1 and season 2 until that storyline blew up. Part of me keeps wondering, why do we keep going to Tony's listless days? She's just wandering through Berlin, always waiting for Charlotte, and Charlotte's so busy with her work, she's not there. What do you guys think about the Ritter family drama?
Well, but don't you think that Tony is seeking these birds? Because she doesn't see them or go after them or ask questions about them until after she reads the letters. And I was just wondering if this is kind of her way of dealing with this kind of loneliness that has been kind of thrown on her by finding this information out.
Oh, that's a good read. By finding out that the sister she's closest to and the sister who's looking out for her
has a different father. Yeah.
Catfish, any thoughts on the Charlotte Ritter family drama?
It's not for me to write the show or say what they should cover or not. It's only for me to say what storylines I enjoy more than others. And while I enjoy the Tony storyline, Tony with Lotta, the other part of it, her sister, her eye problems, I don't care.
Fair enough. The final story we want to talk about is Rath's family drama. Specifically, Helga's moved out. Moritz, let's not even get started. Helga seems to be drawing closer and closer to Nyssen. And even though Helga's found out she's pregnant, oh my goodness gracious, Moritz wants to attend a Nazi youth outing. Dear Lord. And then because his mom won't let him, he's like, well, let me move in with Uncle Gereon. This is just terrible. Catfish, you did some research on Helga finding out she's pregnant in 1929, and what'd you find out?
As you might remember, on our last podcast, when we talked about the first few episodes, my sweet scheisse moment was finding out that they were going to inject a mouse with her urine to find out if she was pregnant. And I was like, holy cow. And then, I don't know why, I just looked at it earlier. And so this pregnancy test, where women's urine were injected into mice. Well, if they injected into mice, if the mice went into heat, then that meant that they were pregnant. This test was developed unlike all the musical cues, all the music which was actually created after the time of this show. This pregnancy test was developed by two Germans in 1927, Selmar Aschheim and Bernhard Zondig. So what I thought was interesting was, and this is what I was alluding to earlier when I said one of the cool things that I really dig about this show, as opposed to all the Lotta Charlotte's family drama, is that there's a real pride that's being shown as far as German ingenuity and German technology. We have all the CSI stuff, which to modern eyes seems like, wow, that's really advanced for that time. We have this pregnancy test, which was developed by Germans. So there's a real pride in German accomplishments in engineering in this show. Now, one other small thing that's got nothing to do with Germany is that Egyptians thought if you peed on barley sprouts, if a woman peed on barley sprouts, that those barley sprouts would go faster if they're pregnant. And modern science shows that this is 70 to 85% accurate.
Wow.
Oh my goodness gracious.
There's your pregnancy test tidbit of the day.
Double M, I don't know if you even want to try to follow that. But
I've got nothing. Cutting edge technology from the Germans.
Oh my goodness gracious. Hey listeners, that's the kind of information you can only find out here on the Babylon Berlin Babble podcast. One thing we always love to talk about is that double T.
Double T?
Double T.
Tickworth tinkerings as an arranger and a DJ mixer. Double M, why don't you take us through the music of these 4 episodes?
All right. Well, I know that I've said this many, many times on the prior podcast, but I really want us to think about the way that Tickwer and Klimek work together. Their coordination with scoring is unique, but it is something that you find in all of the projects that they do together, like Sense8 and have you. But I like to think of their relationship as a AAA.
AAA?
Yeah, artist and arranger, or composer-arranger kind of relationship. Like, say, Bubba, you write this hit song, King Joffrey, he ain't no Nazi.
Okay.
And Catfish hears it, and he's got a drum and bugle corps called the Wailing Walters Brass Band.
Yes.
And he can't use everything that from the Joffrey song in his brass band because he doesn't have the right arrangement for it. So he takes some things out and puts other things in to kind of add his own flair to it. Or another way you might want to look at it is a DJ kind of remix also. Like, say that Catfish writes this hit tune called Walter's All Right With Me, and Bubba is a DJ, and he gets a call from this Schmidt guy who says, I'm throwing this party at this mansion.
Wait a minute, Dr. Schmidt is also a DJ? This is awesome.
He's everything.
And the didgeridoo last time, it doesn't work, so so Bubba, I want you to do, I really love the Walter song because he was one of our guys in a way. I want you to do this Walter's All Right With Me all night long, but it's got to go through different kinds of dance mixes. So Bubba lays down these series of beds, and then he just puts part of Catfish's tune over the top as the beats progress on through. And examples of these might be Klimek, he through composes pieces. They're complete pieces, and then Tickwer just takes a certain section of the entire composition from one place or uses another part of the composition in another place. You take Unterwelt, which means underworld. It's from the Volume 2 official soundtrack, track 13. In Episode 5, when Rath, Baum, and Charlotte are arriving and they're walking through the mansion, you only hear the second half of that piece used. But you hear more around the 1 minute mark of that same piece used at the conclusion of the mobster meeting. And it's got that one familiar motive that we're all used to, probably one of the first times that we heard it in this whole season, but it's got that kind of sound in it as mobsters are leaving. One thing that I also love about the way that Tickwer and Klimek work together is the idea of concept. Maybe concepts are spoken between the two of them prior to, but when you think about the translation of underworld, since it's used in a place where they're talking to the dead, is that what it refers to? Or does it refer to, as we hear it with the criminals, as the underworld of the crime scene? So I love how Tickwer will take different interpretations of the same title and use different parts of the piece in there. Another example of that would be Spuren, or Spuren, which means traces. It's Volume 2, Track 14 of the official soundtrack. It's back from, it was in an earlier episodes as well, but it's back for Episode 6 when Rath and Graf are looking for the OW and the FH abbreviations, who we know are Nazis. But the cool thing is that he actually goes back and he takes a piece from the first soundtrack, from the Der Prankertong. He makes that work with it. It's all a new arrangement, but it's still got elements of both of those together. And that's what I mean by Tickwer needing different tracks. Klimek to put the stuff in tracks so he can just take a track from here and a track from there. And with today's technology, you can even make the timing match up. So it's a lot easier. You also hear Spuren, and just like you love this scene, Bubba, so did I, you also hear this cut when Richard is chasing Elisabeth. You'll hear it from about the 2 minute mark of the official soundtrack. And I love that brass rising thing that comes from that as well. It's also a nod to Der Prangertong, but it's from the new piece that Klimek wrote. It gave it kind of that real James Bond feel to it, like Binky's getting away from it. I love that. It also reminded me, when the brass comes in, reminded me a little bit of the Henry Jackman score of Winter Soldier. You hear 30 seconds in on the track of that in Episode 7 when Rath is interviewing fake Fritz. And then you hear it again in Episode 7 when Nyssen is his pitch to the Black Reichswehr is happening as well. Although here, Tickwer does another little DJ trick. He pitches it down a half step. It's the exact same cut. It's the same timing. He didn't have to have Klimek re-record it. He just, with today's modern technology, you can just pitch everything down a half step. Other things by mixing or elements with this Spuren again in Episode 7 at the studio when Rath and Charlotte are looking at Weintraub. And then it kind of molds into the Fuga from track 8 of the Volume 1 official soundtrack. And that's when it's going back to Wendt's card game. Once again, in Episode 7, Rath is asking Zorgabel for permission to bring Greta to look over the traitor Richfitz. It comes back a little bit. It's mixing all different parts from different places at the same time, which I thought was really brilliant. That motive that I played earlier is actually originally from the Season 1 soundtrack called Berliner Luft, which means Berlin air. And you hear that in Episode 4 when Charlotte's telling Rath that she saw Helga. You also have him when he's telling Charlotte that Greta has retracted her testimony. You hear it return again in full as Rath is looking through the Lightman stuff at the apartment there, except that the second part of the Berliner Luft, let me see if I can play it here, that part, which actually only happens in the second half of that cut, is brought into the forefront to work with everything else. You get the main motive when Charlotte is remembering Vera with Weintraub. And then there's just a couple more pieces I want to talk about. A line, which means alone. That's from the Volume 2 official soundtrack. The treatment of it, we actually heard it in the earlier last podcast, in one of the earlier episodes, where the piano was omitted and the strings were just left. And you get the same thing again when Nyssen is talking to Helga. But then you get another version, which is the strings are taken out, and it's just piano only. And that's when Helga is getting her pregnancy results, which I thought was really interesting. Those are really cool. There's a whole bunch of other artists that are used in the soundtrack as well. Avalon and The Only Face come from episode 4. Those are tracks 5 and 12 on this Volume 2 soundtrack. That's the Brian Ferry Orchestra, once again, doing those. And we have Hot Knot on Peru, which is Tonight in Peru. And that's that montage of Graf and Rath. Lottie and Vera are all dancing. That's Tim Fisher who's singing that. And he was in the first season. Was it the first season or the second season? I can't remember which now.
Last episode of season 1, where Walter and Rath were celebrating, wrapping up the porn film storyline.
Yeah. Then you also have this piece that precedes it called Perunerin, which is not on the official soundtrack, but it was composed by Oliver Puratz, who is Fisher's bass player. So the part with the clarinet that starts there, that's his bass player's composition. One other piece that we want to talk about is Gimme That Shimmy. That's that piano thing where Rath is taking Moritz to the bar. That's what's playing in the background there. A line returns once more with two guys playing it that are a famous European cello duo, a piano duo. Runge and Ammon are their names, and it's just the two of them playing it. We need more Liebstrom, just like we needed more Mac the Knife. There's of course, the Seeger sisters perform Liebstrom. It's actually performed by Ruska Cherokiva and, this name, Vinceslav Nikolov. They're two Russian performers, and they did that version of Liebstrom for it. You know what? If they only had room for one barrel organ version of Mac the Knife, at least we got in a whole lot of different versions of Liebstrom in this particular series. Oh, wait a minute. List is public domain. They didn't have to pay for any of it. That's why they could use so many different versions of it.
Love it. You know, Double M, we really make you do these music sections really just so we can hear you try to pronounce these German and Russian names.
Yeah, and I do it poorly, but I try.
Listeners, we're going to end this week the way we end every Babylon Berlin Babble podcast, by giving out our awards for the people who really stood out this week. We've moved on to our Season 3 award. That's where it's the Strawberry Face Nyssen of the week. This is somebody who can see the future with the stock market crash and who loves getting smacked down. Somebody who's having a coming-of-age story at 40, as Catfish described earlier. So, Catfish, he's your new boy. Who is your Nyssen of the week?
All right, well, no matter what happens, no matter what situation Nyssen is in, he always managed to get a good dig in on other people. That's why my Nyssen of the week is Mama Nyssen.
Oh, she had a good smack.
Oh, man. She always managed to get in. She says to somebody,
General Seegers, whose daughters just performed the song.
She said, be grateful you can share your kids off. Not everybody can. Ba-boom! Drops the bomb right on Nyssen. Mama Nyssen, you get my Nyssen of the week.
Oh, man. Let me say that she should get it every week. She's so good. Double M, do you have a Nyssen of the week?
I'm laying money down now and hoping for no earthquake that the sweet Scheisse of the week is also that moment from Catfish. But as I've always gone real world with the Walter of the week, and then I had to improvise last time with a Walt Nyssen of the week. So I'm going with the Nyssen of the week, and I'm going real world, but this time I have to dig back into history, deep back into history. We have to go back to this man who both Nyssen and this man were ridiculed by their peers for seeing the truth about the world that the others did not. Both Nyssen and my nominee had secret motivations for getting their truth out there, be it fortune or revenge. Both Nyssen and my nominee exhibited some strong diversification issues, finding other people as being significantly less than themselves. And both seriously got played by powerful women, as in Svetlana and Nyssen's mother, or in my case, the Queen of Spain. That's right, my nominee for Nyssen of the Week is Christopher Columbus, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow. Wow.
We love history, apparently, on this show. Great work, Double M. Well, I don't want to follow that, but I am going to try. So I'm going to stick with the show characters, a $4 worth character for my Nyssen of the week. Nyssen, he's kind of a mess at times. When he went into prison and people were searching him like they didn't search his trains for poison gas, these two characters, we love to call them Tweedledee and Tweedledum, the Tweedles. They do everything great. So yeah, okay, they came up with a possible big clue. They were interviewing a beverage supply guy who had a key to the courtyard where the masked killer snuck out after the killer killed Tilly, and they found out that, Tristan Rath wanted a key. Later, we find out it's because Tristan Rath wanted to plant these candles so he could find his connection to Betty Winter again. But the fact that they were interviewing a beverage supplier and able to get drunk on the job, Chervinsky and Henning, a.k.a. Tweedledee and Tweedledum, my Nyssen of the week. There's nothing like going into the Buddha Ganot and being sloppy drunks.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, we also give out one final award, Sweet Scheisse. It's just something on the show that makes you, something in the show or in real life that makes you exclaim, what in the world? Sweet Scheisse. Catfish, you came up with this award. Anything blow you away this week?
Well, it's rather unfortunate that you just use that terminology, because my Sweet Scheisse of the week is our poor photographer down in the evidence room.
Graf.
Blowing away, I guess, or getting blown away, however you would put it. I was like, Sweet Scheisse, this is not what I expected in this show at this moment. In fact, it was so much so, I thought to myself, that's not what I thought happened. Because obviously, if you've been listening to any podcast I've done, including this one, you know I'm dirty-minded. So I'm like, it's only because of my dirty mind I assume what happened. But no, it really happened. So I have to say, Sweet Scheisse, my dirty mind is right.
That should never happen, listeners.
Double M, never happen. It should never happen.
Double M, for the Sweet Scheisse of the week, I could go dirty-minded, as Catfish did, and think about some other aspect of the 4 episodes. But instead, I'm just going...
Is it the 3 girls in the bed? Tell me it's the 3 girls in the bed. Please let it be the 3 girls in the bed.
Double E, because mine is, in fact, now changed to the fact I said Sweet Scheisse when Rath got lifted up by the cloaked figure, presumably Walter, and rammed through the cheek with a spike.
Whoa.
I was like, that's just a fantastic forelook into what the new piercing fad will be.
Very good. I guess I'm the only one going to go real world this week, and this one, I have to be honest, it's not a Sweet Scheisse, it's a Sweet Scheisse. Listeners, in the future, we are recording this during the terrible global pandemic of 2020, where the whole country of the United States is trying to be on lockdown because we have over 600,000 people as the time of this recording who are confirmed to have coronavirus cases. And we've had over, at the time of this recording, 33,000 deaths. I mean, this is just the worst thing ever. And the reason why we've held it, and seems weird to use the word held it, to 33,000 deaths, is that we've done this social distancing. We've locked ourselves up. So my Sweet Scheisse of the week is there are some people protesting state governments demanding that they open back up. And these people are like, I'm willing to risk my life to save my business. And it's like, buddy, you don't get it. You're not just risking your life by going out. You're risking everybody's life. And and if you get it, you don't just, stay at home and die. You're going to go to the hospital. You're going to use resources. And so these people demanding here in the middle of April 2020 to reopen their states, sweet Scheisse, Lord help us. That's mine for the week. If you have one, or if you disagree with ours, please write to us, talk to us, scold us when we're doing our double E's at double PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, facebook.com/double PHQ. We're going to be giving you a big assignment for the next week, 5 episodes, the final 5 episodes of Season 3. We're going to cover all of Season 3 all the way to the end on our next podcast. So get ready, listeners. Double M, how can people reach you on social media?
Well, I just want to say to the listeners, you're probably very thankful that we're getting all 5 of the last episodes in, because that way you won't have to hear me make silly jokes. Bubba and Catfish do it much better than I do. Oh. But if you want to tell me that on Twitter, find me at Musical Concepts.
Catfish.
If there's ever any question that I've said something offensive, whether it was serious or a joke, hit me up at CJGman67. I will gladly take all your abuse.
My name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at FittenTrim. That's FITTENTRIM. FittenTrim on Twitter. Next week, we're going to be at the end of all the Babylon Berlin episodes that exist at this point. Listeners, we hope you've been enjoying the show as much as we have, and you'll hear us next time on
Babylon
Berlin. Babble.
Babble on. I always think it should be Babylon Berlin Babble on.
That's what it should be. That's right. That's what it should be. Catfish. I did not know Mrs. Catfish was watching this show with you.
She is. She digs it. She digs the show.